take it to be here.
Yes.
I'm shitting around.
I'd like to call the Finance, Audit, and Budget Committee for Thursday, November 4th, 2021 to order. First item here is Pledge of Allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, next item is adoption agenda. I need a motion to adopt.
Romano
Motion.
adopts the agenda.
Support Van Sickle.
Made by Romano, supported by Van Sickle. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, please vote.
Motion passes 9-0.
Next item is approval of minutes dated October 26, 2021. Need a motion to approve.
Motion to approve.
Made by Commissioner Haas, supported by Commissioner Van Sickle. Is there any discussion? Hopefully our screens are working today. Seeing none, please vote.
Motion passes 9-0.
Okay, next item is public participation. This is the first opportunity for public participation for those who would like to speak for a maximum of 3 minutes on an item which is on today's agenda. There'll be a second opportunity for public participation for those who would like to speak on any issue. Would anyone from the public like to speak on an agenda item only? Going once, going twice. We'll close public participation. Next item is budget reviews. Today we have Public Works and Planning and Economic Development. I just want to say thank you to Commissioner Miller and also to Vicki Red to be here today and switch their schedules around and make our process a little bit easier on us. We had a pretty packed agenda for next week, so thank you for being here. So first item is going to be Public Works. Commissioner Miller is here with her team. I need a motion to receive and file. Made by Romano, supported by Van Sickle. Commissioner, you have the floor.
Yes, okay, very good. If I could get my handy dandy.
1 second.
Dan actually is just give you more of an overview of some of the various things that we are doing in our department. Some of you that sit on drain boards are very familiar with what we're doing, and some of you are not. And so I'd like you to be a little bit more familiar with what we have going on and what we see for our department. Make sure, okay, so you're seeing that. All right, good. So the first thing I want to tell you about is the vision for the department, right? Every department needs their vision and their mission. And then we try to get everybody in the department to buy into those things. So we say that our vision is improving water quality, and water quality equals quality of life. And certainly we see as a big part of our mission, is a critical component, is how we can be a part of economic prosperity for the county. And I always tell my staff, they sort of laugh at me, but I always say, you know, we're in the drain business. There's a lot of things that we do and a lot of things that we don't do, but what we do, we're in the drain business. So we need to think about what our mission is all the time. So our first slide will show you that, you know, really, I don't think it's out of turn for me to tell you that there were decades and decades of neglect in this department with our underground infrastructure. And that manifested itself in a very vivid demonstration, I think, with a 15-mile road interceptor collapse. I mean, that happened literally 4 days before I took this office, one of the biggest infrastructure disasters in our state's history. The governor had to declare an emergency, etc. So that was something where they said that would be, you know, take 3 years to fix, and it was going to be $150 million to fix, which I did not think was the correct answer. And we actually fixed it in under a year for $70 million, which is still a little bit of change in your blue jeans, but it's not 150. But I just point that out because one of the things that we're trying to do now is, let's see, Dan, what is the next slide? go to no more sinkholes. Yeah, okay. So the first slide that you're looking at showed you what the bypass looked at. You saw these houses sinking into the sinkhole. And after that, what we did is we did the largest inspection, underground inspection in Macomb County's history. And what we found, no surprise, is all kinds of issues, all kinds of problems. And so what I want to go over with you today is where we went from that sinkhole to what we're doing now as a result of our inspection. And so the first thing that we're working on is what we call the Segment 5, which is a rehabilitation of the 15-mile road interceptor. We're actually lining about 7,000 feet of this interceptor in Segment 5, and when you see the investment there, we're saying it's a $30 million project. And you're probably wondering what you're looking at, but what you're looking at, and Commissioner Van Sickle has been out there, and as well as Commissioner Brown, but because, of course, of the drain, this is the Macomb Interceptor Drainage District. He's on that mid board. We're lining 7,000 feet of this with a Hobos pipe. It's an 11-foot diameter, non-reinforced concrete pipe. South of, sort of the south side of 15-mile road from the ITC corridor to what is known as Fontana Drive. It's a neighborhood there just west of Hayes. And then we're going to be spray lining 1,300 feet of the 8-foot diameter pipe from Fontana down to Eberline, which was the intersection where that house fell into the sinkhole. But what you're looking at here with Segment 5, you're looking down the shaft. We have to build a shaft, which is a hole in the ground, a large hole in the ground. So we have to build the shaft. You're looking down about 70 foot. Okay, it's 70 foot. And what you see there is the crown of the pipe, the top of the pipe. So we are doing that as we speak. If you drove over there today, and all of you are welcome to do so at any time, just let us know. And we'll make sure they know that you're coming. But it is as I say, 70 feet down. It's an amazing thing to have this interceptor down there. It's sort of interesting because at the bottom of this shaft, it was the same thing with the interceptor collapse, is a very fine white sand, almost like you see like at some of these beaches at Panama City, Florida or whatever. And one of the engineers said to me, you know, think about it, 40,000 years ago there was a beach. So it is sort of an interesting thing. Anyway, that's a $30 million project that is happening there. Another thing that we're doing is Segment 6. We're rehabbing that. That just started a week ago, actually. If you go by 15 Mile and Garfield, you will see the cones that are all put up there. We have to, unfortunately, close down a lane for a while, probably a year and a half. But at any rate, that's a $16 million investment that we are doing there, and that is right where it comes at the curve of the intersection of 15 Mile, where it heads north on Garfield. So that is also happening at this time. We're lining there 2,100 foot of a 5-foot diameter pipe. And then we're going to do another 1,200 foot lining as well. We're going to put in what we call an air jumper at that intersection. We have always, before I got there, people have always complained about odors in that area. So we're trying to do some things for odor control as well. But again, that's another $16 million. The next slide is what we're trying to show you here is about $6 million that we've put into grouting. So you can see what the interior of this pipe looks like when you see all that exposed rebar, etc. These are the kinds of things that keep me awake at night. Because we've been grouting, where we put in grout into strategic locations throughout this interceptor so that we don't have another sinkhole, but also so that we don't have a sinkhole under strategic locations, quite frankly. We just did some work under right where the Clinton River at North River Road and I-94. I mean, honestly, can you imagine what an environmental catastrophe that would be to have a sinkhole under something like that, or some of our other water courses? Major water courses, or the ITC corridor, in fact, where we've got these transmission grids. having a transmission grid fall into a sinkhole, in very technical terms, is bad, okay? So we don't want those kinds of things to happen. So this is what we're doing there, and we're investing, as I say, $6 million in the grout. We're doing another $8 million for odor control, and the reason we do the odor control is because all of the sewer is, as it's agitating, it's creating H2S, which is hydrogen sulfate, which degrades these unreinforced concrete pipes. So, Commissioner, how are you? Nice to see you. So we're doing all of those kinds of things as well. So that's a lot of investment there. And I wanted to show you some of the other investment that we're making in reducing combined sewer overflows, CSOs as we call them. This is a principal reason that I actually ran for this job, because I don't think we have to live like this anymore. We can't keep passing this stuff on generationally because we don't have the political will to invest what we need to invest to protect our magnificent Great Lakes. In our case, we're dumping these things out into Lake St. Clair. This is our Chapaton pump station that you're looking at, an aerial view there. The pump station was built in 1968. It actually had a ribbon cutting with Tom Welsh and Hubert Humphrey. Interesting pictures, which I didn't put up, but we have some interesting pictures there if you ever want to see them. This is a huge retention basin, and the next slide that you're going to see shows this is what a retention basin looks like. Okay, that's the underground, that's the retention basin that you're looking at there. This is, so we're doing a couple of things at Chapaton, what we call in-system storage, which is a $17 million project, which we just bid out. That's going to have inflatable bladders, if you will, sort of creating a weir situation where we're able to store within the existing infrastructure, within the existing pipe, until the rain event has passed, and we can send it down to Detroit for proper storage, which we think will reduce the amount of CSOs that we have at Chapaton by about somewhere in a 30 percentile. Some of the things that we've done from our operational process already has reduced the amount of CSOs that we are discharging at Chapaton, again by 30%. So between the two of them will be over half of what we need to do there to reduce these CSOs. So that's about, as I say, a $17 million investment. We're doing the similar, almost identical kind of thing as Harold, Commissioner Haw knows very well, at the Martin project, which is a retention basin. First of all, Chapaton handles all of East Point and about 80% of St. Clair Shores. Then Martin handles the other 20% of St. Clair Shores, and then all of Roseville. You know, nothing different here than anywhere else in the country, quite frankly. These older communities still have combined systems. So at a heavy rain event, the storm water combines with the sanitary sewer, and our underground infrastructure is not big enough to handle it. It's antiquated, and so we end up discharging, which again, in my mind, is very bad. We should not be doing that. So just know that whatever we are discharging in Macomb County, Oakland County discharges on us, right on us, and they discharge about 5 times as much as we do. And in these heavy rain events, quite frankly, in Wayne County, their numbers are off the chart, but they don't discharge on us. But everybody's downstream of somebody. So Oakland County discharges on us, and we discharge on Wayne County. So we don't have clean hands, I guess is what I'm trying to say here. We need to stop doing what we're doing so we have a better position to point to Oakland County in particular and tell them to stop doing that. We're also talking about a new pump station, the first one since 1968. This is about a $35 million project investment. We intend to bid this out in December, and we need to do this so that we don't flood basements. Particularly in St. Clair Shores or East Point, but along the southern part of our county. And as well, we need to put this on a different electrical feed so that we have redundancy, because guess what happens in bad storms? The power goes out. So we're trying to be prepared for the future as well with that. But you can see these different projects I'm talking about. I mean, we have well over $100 million in projects that we're looking at right now, and probably over the next 10 years, well over $200 million. But at any rate, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. And again, we need to have the political will to be doing what we're doing so that people are able to flush their toilets and not have it all go out into the lake somewhere. So that's a big part of what we're doing. The next slide you're going to see is something about green infrastructure and stormwater management. This is we have a number of different projects going on, but this is an award-winning project I thought I would bring to the board's attention. Again, those that sit on the drain boards are somewhat familiar with this perhaps. This is a project that we did at the Sterling Relief Drain, which is one of our largest drains in the county. It essentially drains about 30% of Sterling Heights, quite frankly, a huge area of Sterling Heights. It runs between 15 and 16 mile. It starts at the intersection, the border of Oakland and Macomb County at DeQuinder, and then runs all the way back behind the county's Park Freedom Hill. We sort of what we call daylighted it. So we took out all the old corrugated metal pipes from a number of the major intersections that come through there, the drains that come through there, Mound, Van Dyke, Dodge Park, etc. And we're just essentially allowing Mother Nature to now infiltrate all of this storm water. And as a result of that, we are removing literally thousands of tons of phosphorus and nitrogen and sedimentation, etc., which is a very great thing for us being in the drain business. It's also great for the environment. And at the invert of this drain, besides planting thousands of trees and shrubs, we decided to plant a number of native species, plant species to Michigan, and we have essentially created a 2.5 mile butterfly flyway for our pollinators. So that's a big project that we're doing. The next slide you're going to see is something that we're trying to do to assist with water quality. As we keep saying, water quality equals quality of life, etc. We have a number of large outfalls that happen all the way in Sinclair Shores, Harrison Township, New Baltimore, and Chesterfield Township, all the way up along the shoreline of Macomb County as it goes to Lake St. Clair. This is something that we've started as a pilot program. It's at the end of Martin Road, so 11.5 mile road in Jefferson. This drains a whole area all the way up from Roseville, East Point, I-94. It all outlets into, this is storm drain from the expressways in a number of neighborhoods, industrial areas, etc. It outlets into Lake St. Clair right next to the Bruce VFW post, if you're familiar with that, on 11 Mile Road. There's a picture of what collects there after heavy rain events. It's just garbage. I could use another term, but I won't. Okay, it's garbage that's there, and all kinds of different floatables. So we're actually spending some cash to try to collect all of this garbage before it goes out into the lake. Pretty simple concept, but never been done before. And we just started this and have already landfilled a lot of garbage. So again, it just goes happily out into the lake, and we don't want it to do that. So if we are successful here, and if it doesn't cost too much, because we can't be there every day collecting the garbage, but we're trying to figure out how much it costs us to do that. But we would like to replicate it at other outlets all the way along the shoreline there. Then the next slide you're going to look at is just some examples of our drain, our 50/50 drain program, which is in our budget and has been in our budget here, and the County Board of Commissioners has very generously helped us with that. And we have 475 county drains, but we have tried to spend the money in every single municipality in Macomb County. And so you're looking at these boards that are in front of you. One of them shows the all the different municipalities in the county and how many drains we've done in there. So depending on where your county commission district is, you can track that. And also it shows you the other board shows you all the different drains that we've done in the municipality. So, you know, it's county money. You've been very generous to give it to us, and we have tried to spread it out everywhere, and we don't have any lack of places to go next. So we appreciate that. You're just seeing one slide here up in New Baltimore. Actually, that's one we did in cooperation with a local homeowner association up there. So that money even went a little bit further. But they're all very happy, and we're happy. It's all flowing. And the other slide that we show you is up in Armada after the hurricane that they had here. This is right behind that dentist's office where the roof blew off. Don, I know you've been through there. And so we just started back in there, behind there with our drain crew. And Dan Acchiavetti, who's clicking along here for me today, is one of my deputies and is doing all of our drain crews also. So if you have an issue with any of your drains, call Dan. You can call me, but you'll call me and then I'll hand it over to Dan to go out and take a look at it. Then I wanted to show you a slide of just one of the, some of you might have been familiar with this particular drain cleanup. But you know, again, after many, many years of neglect and never inspecting any of the drains, it's amazing what you find when you look. So one of our guys was out behind Tacom there. Actually, we were sort of upset with how much de-icing Tacom was using, and but we got that resolved. But while he was out there looking at this drain, up from the bottom of the drain and all just oozing out the banks of the Bear Creek drain there was sort of like the Beverly Hillbillies, bubbling crude that had been that's where there's right at 696 in Mound. There's a BP gas station there, probably the busiest gas station in Macomb County, one of the busiest in the state, actually, because people are just exiting off of the interstate there onto Mound. That's where the Burger King is. I mean, what else do you need, right? Diesel fuel, Burger King, everything is there. But anyway, at some point in time, years ago, there was a spill there. And what we found this product to be, as we examined it and sampled it, was old diesel. Old because it was deteriorating, literally. And the current gas station owner is a great corporate citizen. He was as horrified as we were. I don't know how long this has been going on, but for years, this stuff was just oozing into the Bear Creek, goes immediately into the Clinton River, and then out into the lake. 4 years. This is just one example. And so after over $1 million, we've cleaned this all up. And we've put in some containment areas there, which it has to run clean for 2 years before we take it off the list. So our guys go out and they inspect once a week. But I just give you an example of one of the projects that we've had that we've been cleaning up. We've just been cleaning out drains and cleaning things up for such a long time. And I sort of mention these things because you can't have water quality in our lakes just with one thing. There's no silver bullet. There's so many different reasons that we have pollutants in the lake. And, we have a zero tolerance for contamination and pollutants. And we've really worked with our fire departments and everybody in Macomb County. We now have a 24-hour hotline for pollution, which we never even had that. If a citizen saw some pollution, they didn't even know who to call in the past. So who are you going to call? They call us, and we're on the job. So we find them, we fix them. And then, as I mentioned to you in the last slide that I want to show you, is how we are a critical component of economic prosperity, because anybody who is doing any kind of development in Macomb County, where one of our drains is, and that's the lion's share of the development that happens in Macomb County, they have to come through our department for site plan review. We're part of the cog of the wheel, and of course we also do, besides the review, we also do the soil erosion inspections and issue the permits and everything, which, by the way, all of this is online now. People used to have to come in with their 9 sets of blueprints. I mean, we were nothing but paper. Now everything is done electronically. We do all the reviews electronically. Same thing for the soil erosion permit. So if you're a developer and you want to go to your account to find out where you are in the process and what kinds of comments our review teams are making on your project, you find that at 4 o'clock in the morning if you happen to be up having a cup of coffee. You don't have to come into the office. We've really expedited by using technology. But we have adopted some new stormwater standards, which I just wanted to mention this to you and bring it to your attention. Because part of the stormwater standards are how a developer can develop, but yet they have to take into consideration what the environmental impact is on a development. And I use this one, this one here is at 59. It's right at Lakeside Mall. It's where the Sterling Bistro and the Cheeseburger in Paradise restaurant used to be. You see the current footprint of that, which is, you know, it's all concrete, right, or asphalt or whatever. It's totally covered. The new footprint, when they, and we've already approved this, and they're starting to proceed on this. There's going to be a couple of new restaurants there. Mission Barbecue, which I mentioned because it's a veteran-owned barbecue, which is great, right? So they're going to go there. Shake Shack, and then one more to be announced. But you can see right along M59, the blue, what that is showing you is retention ponds that are going to be going in there. And then the green is going to be sort of, I won't say rain garden, but sort of a reservoir for stormwater management. So you don't have a completely asphalted, concreted area, yet they're going to be able to accommodate their development and at the same time help manage their stormwater in an environmentally sensitive way. And so I think these two can go hand in hand, I really do. So these new stormwater standards I'm very excited about them. I mentioned this one about Lakeside Mall because all you have to do is look at an aerial of Lakeside Mall. It is an enormous sea of asphalt, right? And there's not even any cars parked there, only on Christmas Eve. They built that whole thing so you could park enough cars on Christmas Eve. The rest of the year, you don't need that kind of parking. And if you look at the parking lot now, for instance, at Metropolitan Beach, I sit on something called the Great Lakes Commission. We help them get some grants. Now if you look at a drone footage of Metropolitan Beach the parking lot, you see all these retention reservoirs and rain gardens and everything all over you. So you can still park the same amount of cars that you need to, but you do it in an environmentally sensitive way. So anyway, I just wanted to mention that as well to you. So that's sort of an overview of some of the major projects that we are involved in. And I am now going to turn this over to Brian Baker, who is my chief deputy, who really is responsible for helping us put the budget together and works very closely with Steve Smiegel's office. And he's going to go through some of the highlights of our budget, and then we'll both be available for Q&A. Brian?
Our department budget is in the general fund, or is funded by the general fund. So 40% is funded by the wastewater districts and the pump station districts as well. And those districts fully reimburse the general fund for those costs. So our budget is a little less than 3% of the total county budget. Was, if not the lowest, one of the lowest increases of any county department. I think the average was 3.2%. And again, half of that budget is funded by revenues as well, which is a good thing. Speaking of revenues, our general fund revenues increased $228,000. That was due to a rebound in our permit activity with the economy. So in total, our department's net cost to the general fund actually declined by $126,000, so less of a burden on the county general fund. In terms of staffing, we eliminated 2.3 full-time equivalents last year, and we are requesting to add back 2.0 FTEs this year. So the staffing is still down from 2020 levels. We are requesting the two positions, now only 0.5 FTEs in the general fund. 1.5 FTEs, again, is in the wastewater districts, which cover those costs. I'll go over those positions real quickly. We have a 0.5 FTE is for a drain equipment operator. And we've not been able to fill our part-time seasonal drain equipment labor position the last 2 years. So by converting this position to full-time, as our work continues year-round, we'll be able to form two separate drain maintenance crews. And with contractors, we can then double our drain cleanouts by spreading our crews into two groups. Next, we have 0.5 FTE is for a SCADA operator. We had a long-term county employee who was working part-time in this position. He just retired, and he's now left. And it's impossible to find a replacement for this position, the skilled position, on only a part-time basis. So we're requesting this position also be converted to full-time due to the number of assets that Candace spoke about in terms of the projects we've got and the assets that we're doing, as well as the electrical workload of those assets as well. This position is much less expensive than hiring a full-time company to do the work. They would cost us $85 an hour, which is more than double our costs. And then finally, we have a construction engineer, and that's in the mid and the pump station. That position is needed, as we've talked about, due to the increasing number of positions that we have. And also our long-term number of positions, 250 projects, 250 million over 10 years. This position will also save us money by our own staff doing the inspections rather than hiring a more expensive engineering firm to do the work. Our costs are about a third of what an outside engineering firm would charge us to do the inspections on these projects. So you'll see then that our staffing requests is the least costly method, most productive method to get the work done, with the low increase in our operating costs, as I said, 1.4%, and less net cost to the general fund. And then finally, we are requesting restoration of the cuts that we had last year on the popular County 50/50 drain match program. That is a $12,500 net increase to the county. As Candace mentioned, 50% of that cost, another $12,500, would be funded by the local communities who are requesting the drain work in their individual communities. So with that quick overview of the project and the budgets, we're available for questions.
Thanks for the presentation. I'm still laughing at the comment about Oakland County providing significantly more discharge. There's jokes I could come up with over and over there. I want to commend the department on the extremely low increase of the budget. That's fantastic to see. There's two questions I have regarding it. Supplies are up, 22%?
Yeah.
I'm curious how many
Yeah.
more pencils you're buying?
No, it's a good question. It's our credit card fees with the new online permitting system that we have now. It's the credit card fees that we have to pay for.
Did you bid that out?
We went with the county treasurers. So I assume they bid it out, but that's why it's a
Okay.
higher cost of doing business.
Good to know. I don't understand how you added 2 personnel in this budget and yet there's really nominal increase in personnel costs.
Because of the wastewater? I mean, some of these things are paid for out of the drain accounts, right? So the wastewater, as we call it, drain accounts. So
Excellent.
some of the, but they're still county employees, so they're still on the, the benefits, everything that the county has.
Keep up the great work.
But,
Thank you.
Yeah, and I appreciate your comment about the low increase. I actually do believe in this stuff about trying to do more with less and being fiscally
If we
conservative.
can just get the internal services costs down countywide,
Yeah.
which we'll work on,
We,
then it'll even be better.
I think we're probably the lowest increase of any of your departments.
Slowest one I've seen.
Yeah,
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you, Chair.
nice of you to see that.
Commissioner Song.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Commissioner Miller, for that presentation. I think you're doing a phenomenal job, and the county is very lucky to have you. I didn't see that presentation as part of our packet, so I was wondering if maybe you guys could email it to us.
Yes, I think we did email it.
Is
I
it
thought
is
we
it in one
emailed
of
it.
these pack?
Huh?
Okay, I wasn't
Yeah.
sure because we have 4 attachments here, and I didn't see
Okay.
it, but I just would love to have it for reference. And
Absolutely.
when
So
you-
Kyle has it, he'll make sure you get it, yeah.
Okay,
Yes, I
sounds
thought you
good.
had
And
it.
then, and because I'm new here, so forgive me if I'm asking a question that is kind of dumb, but you talked about investments, like was it the $30 million investment, the segment 5? Where does that funding come from?
Well, all of that funding to pay for that actually is going to come from the ratepayers from the various drain accounts unless we're able to get some economic stimulus funding. So it is my hope that when the County Board of Commissioners determines how you're going to spend the economic stimulus funds that the county has received, that we get a big slog of that cash quite frankly, because you can see where we can spend it, not just to advantage one particular corner somewhere, but for instance, in the Macomb Interceptor Drainage District, which is one of the projects, the investments that I've showed you and you're asking about, segment 5, $30 million. There's about 600,000 residents of Macomb County, in a county of 900,000 and some change. 600,000 of them, their residents, the residents goes through that interceptor. So rather than passing the fees on to the ratepayer, if we could get some assistance on these things, it would go really a long way. Same thing with Chapaton. Rather than paying, having the ratepayers in a community like East Point, which I think nobody's shock, I would say is a distressed community financially, could use some assistance. And in some areas of St. Clair Shores as well, they're not wealthy communities. So we're looking for some help from the County Board of Commissioners, quite frankly, when you do, how you handle from a budgetary standpoint the ARP money. County Executive Hackle and I spent all day, one day last week up in Lansing, talking to senators for some of the state's money. And next week we're going to be talking to House members as well. And we're the third largest county. And many times we're treated like the second sister, quite frankly. And that is not correct. It's not right. So I think we in Macomb County hopefully have a cohesive voice in Lansing. And I guess I would like to ask this county board to be as proactive as you possibly can with our Macomb County delegation, Democrats and Republicans. Infrastructure knows no partisanship, right?
That's right.
And we need to get our fair share. And I hope that we're not shut out this next time. But it's, every one of us has a role to play. We're all elected officials to talk to your state representative and your state senator and say, the county is up there. The delegation is pretty, together on how we thought we wanted to spend these funds. And certainly what I'm doing is a part of the county's ask, quite frankly.
Okay, thank you for clarifying that. I just wasn't sure if there was like a special fund or a page that we might have missed when you talked about some of these investments. So they're actually like potential proposals or projects that you are looking to do if there is funding.
No, we're going to do them one way or the other. We are going to do them. We're moving. The segment 5 is well under construction. It has been under construction. Segment 6 just started last week. The Chapaton in-system storage for the one that I pointed out, we bid that out about a week ago. The pump station, we intend to bid in December. But it would be fantastic if all of these fees were not put on the ratepayers. So we're really looking for some assistance.
Okay, so that assistance wouldn't fall under intergovernmental, and maybe this is a question for Steve. This is a technical question.
Not understanding your question.
So my question is, Commissioner Miller is talking about bidding out these projects and these investments of $30 million, $7 million, et cetera. And where is this funding coming from? Is it in the form of grants or, like she mentioned, ARP funds?
It would all be from ARPA funds in connection with, remember, we have the other two projects that we're talking about as well. So it's all part of a bigger picture.
Okay.
I can
Got it.
clarify. Those are in front of the drain boards. The drain boards vote on those budgets. The drain boards vote on those contracts. So
That's a separate fund.
It's completely separate.
Yes.
Okay.
We're not the governmental entity that oversees it. It's the drain boards.
Got it. Thank you.
So, no, and that's a good question because it's a.
Yeah, and because I'm new, so
Of course.
still learning the process.
Absolutely. So the drain boards are set up under under statute. The state of Michigan has a drain code, and the various drain boards are set up under the statute. And there are some different types of drain boards. For instance, the ones that I've outlined here today, are what is known as Chapter 20 drain boards. And the way that the drain board is comprised is myself as the Public Works Commissioner, the county executive and/or his designee. In this case, it's Brian Santo, who runs the roads, he represents Mark on the drain board. So it's me and Brian, and then it's the county commissioner from the district that has the largest apportioned share. So in other words, Commissioner Kleinfeld sits on the Chapaton Drain Board because she represents the area, the greatest part of the area that's impacted by that. Commissioner Van Sickle sits on the Mid Board because Sterling Heights has the largest apportionment of, which is actually 11 communities, but his district has the largest apportioned share. So there's 3 people on those drain boards. So all these projects go through the drain boards. There's minutes. There never used to be, quite frankly. The mid-board didn't have a meeting for 7.5 years, if you can imagine such a thing, while they were awarding millions of dollars of contracts, just to give you a flavor of what went on in that department. But now everything is bid out. Everything is, all the minutes are up on the website. All of our expenses are up on the website. And I'm happy to show any member of the county commission any of our different projects that are going on as well. I find them very exciting, fascinating, and they're impactful. And that's why I'm asking that the board, when you get to your budgeting of the ARP, to think about a big slug of those funds for these projects, because not all of them, but a big part of it could certainly go to the underground infrastructure, because they're transformational, really. They're generational, and they're very expensive. Things that have been put off for a long time, but really we can't keep putting them off, or you're just going to have another sinkhole, right? Sometimes you have to spend a dime to save a dollar, and that's what we're trying to do.
Thank you, Commissioner Miller.
Yes.
And every time I hear you speak, I can tell that you're very excited about and you love what you do. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
My final question, I think, is for Brian Baker. Regarding the budget in front of us, I was just wondering, under repairs and maintenance, I know that was from 2020, but what was that significant jump during those years? And do you anticipate that changing in 2022 and beyond? The 103.
Commissioner, it's a good question. The 2 years, 19 and 20, the repair and maintenance, I believe that's some kind of finance cross charge, but basically all we have under that is our copiers, which is 10,000. So I think there was some accounting, adjustment at that point, but those aren't anything we spent.
Okay, got it. Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Commissioner Haw.
Thank you, Chair. First, Candace, let me say to you and your staff, congratulations. You guys do a phenomenal job. You do a phenomenal job of publicizing what you're doing on social media, and many people, it never ceases to amaze me. I'll post something and get 50 reviews. You post something and it gets 1.5 thousand. So it's incredible the amount of people that are following this particular subject that had gone virtually unrecognized as an issue. And I was glad to hear you say on the economic stimulus funds, you weren't looking for all of it. because the thought was, Candace is going to try to get every penny of that.
She would ask for it.
Yeah.
Hey,
But
I'm just trying to get along here, but I need a little bit, okay?
The subject of grants came up. I was looking through the various materials here, minus the economic stimulus funding or the ARP funding. Do you have a number of what you guys are anticipating getting this year based on what you received last year? Is there any such number available?
No, I don't think so. I mean, we just keep kicking in some of these various grants. I mean, we just received a grant from the Army Corps of Engineers to do some green infrastructure down at Chapaton, which is, what is it, 200,000?
1.2.
Huh? Oh, 1.2, right, that's the other one, right, 1.2 million. So I probably haven't told you about that one yet, but
Not yet.
we just received that. But we have been very successful with grants because you know what? We are very aggressive. We are very aggressive with asking for grants. So we just got a small grant to do some master planning along the spillway, which we want to do in cooperation with Mount Clemens, Clinton Township, Harrison Township. I mean, we're sort of all over the place. We're putting together a list that we can ask for more Great Lakes Restoration Initiative funds. We did about $9 million of those managed throughout the county. So we have a number of those kinds of things. I wish I could tell you how much money we thought we could expect from the legislature, from their ARP money, but I don't have a clue. It depends on how they proceed. It sounds like, right, I mean, obviously they passed their budget, so as you guys know, right, now they're going to do their supplementals. I mean, I've heard they're going to do it in several supplementals. I don't know. And however they do it, I'm hoping that, I think one of the supplementals will probably be water and sewer. So I'm hoping that some of my stuff can find a home in there. If you know anybody in Lansing, I don't know if any of you do, but if you do, that would be great. So, but we are aggressively looking for cash. Brian laughs sometimes. I say, I feel like I'm running up and down Gratiot Avenue with a big bucket saying, you got any cash? Because we have so much need here, right?
You don't want to run up and down Gratiot. It's all under construction right now. You can't even get through. And Brian reminds me all the time, that's not his, that's state.
Yeah.
Lastly, that huge issue of Great Lakes Water Authority. For those of you that haven't had the opportunity, I watched Brian testify when they had the hearings, I believe, back in June. The director has subsequently been replaced. Is there any future updates on that?
No update on the executive search. We've hired an executive search firm, so they are going out now. And our board investigation will get an update next month. The GLWA management internal investigation on the flooding, they preliminarily found that some of the operational challenges may have lengthened the flooding or increased it by a couple inches, but the flooding still would have occurred. So predominantly it was a power issue in the pumps. And the power issue is really between DTE and the Detroit Public Lighting Department. So there's going to be litigation, I'm sure. The good thing is FEMA has given out $160 million, and we've gotten about 50,000 claims. So you do the math, the average person probably got a little more than $3,000 from the federal government, which is a good thing compared to prior floods where FEMA has not paid. So that should lessen some of the output or the impact to our ratepayers from GLWA. But as of right now, the law is the system has to, an issue with the system has to account for 51% of the flood, and they don't at this point see that the system deficiencies in any way attributed to that or contributed that much to the flooding. So we'll find out more when the board's investigation concludes, but at least those are the preliminary numbers.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And if any of the board members are interested in sitting through a drain board meeting, they start at 10 o'clock. It's once a month on a Monday. Feel free to appear.
Absolutely.
It's quite interesting to continuously hear. And again, I want to congratulate you on all that you're doing, but we all need to understand these are incremental little baby steps that cost millions and millions of dollars. In my first year up in Lansing, one of my colleagues put in a bill to clean the Great Lakes up. Didn't get very far because the cost came back at somewhere around $3 to $6 trillion. So that's what you're doing, is taking, what'd you say, a little bite of the elephant?
Right.
Piece of the elephant at a time, and we have to keep doing it. We can't call ourselves the water wonderland of Michigan, and yet you can't even use Metro Beach. So once again, thank you guys for all that you do.
You know, and I appreciate those comments, and I guess I would also, when I ask you to think about talking to your state representatives and your state senators about some of the ARP money, I'd also ask this board to consider talking to your colleagues in Oakland County about dumping on our heads here with their discharges. It can't just be the Public Works Commissioner or somebody else that talks about this. I know you all do, but you all have different meetings with your colleagues there, and they're great people, they're good friends, they're our neighbors, but a lot of times neighbors don't dump their sewage on their other neighbors' heads. So, you know, we're doing our thing. I don't know what they're doing there. Not much, if you want to know the truth, not much. Just one thing about the Great Lakes Water Authority, just for the new members so that you do recognize this. The Great Lakes Water Authority came out of the bankruptcy. And so Brian Baker is appointed by County Executive Hackle as the Macomb representative to the Great Lakes Water Authority. We didn't want to be, we being Macomb County did not want the Great Lakes Water Authority, but in the end, we went with it and now we're in it. So it's, but many times Macomb County gets run over by the votes from Detroit and Wayne County. And Oakland County sometimes is with us and sometimes they're not. But Brian has, I'm not saying this just because he's sitting here, believe me, look at the minutes. He's always a voice, I think, for fiscal conservativeness and, you know, reason, et cetera. And the last thing I'll say, I know I'm talking too long, but when we talk about Chapaton and the flooding, Brian mentioned, because you asked that question, the night of the really bad rain in January 29th, my guys at Chapaton, about 10:30, I'm talking to them, and they said, oh, you know, okay, well, everything looks like it's pretty good here. We thought we were going to be in pretty good shape. Then about 2:30 in the morning, they call and say, we're switching on the emergency discharge bypass. So I'm like, what? You know, it all happened so fast with that amount of rain. And we have 3 enormous pumps at Chapaton. Some of you have been there, and those of you that haven't, we invite you to come down and take a look at it. All 3 of those pumps were going full blare out. They were all alarming because they were all overheating, but of course we couldn't turn them off. And the building was shaking. Building was literally shaking, and we have a big manhole cover in our driveway right across from Fishbones there. That thing shot up 20 feet in the air. We get video of that. So, but we did not flood anybody's basements. We probably, because I say we, my guys down there, they did unbelievable work, and because of that, they probably did not flood, I would say, 3,000 to 4,000 basements in St. Clair Shores. Because that same thing that happened in Jefferson Chalmers, all that just backed up all through the Grosse Points, backed up around Martyr, and then we were at the upstream end of that pipe, and we were the last line of defense. We did not flood. So can feel real good about our employees that did that work that night.
Thank you. That's all I have, Chair.
Commissioner Romano.
Thank you, Chair. Good afternoon, Ms. Miller.
Hello.
Commissioner Miller. Always nice to see you and your staff. Great presentation. To your credit, and Commissioner Haas stole my thunder here regarding my favorite subject, which you know is grants. Love to see them. And for the new commissioners, I think you really just kind of, you glossed over it, but the drain, excuse me, Commissioner Miller and her staff are very, very aggressively looking at grants, and they bring them in. They bring in the money. They keep applying for them, and they keep getting them, but you have to keep applying to get them, and sometimes it's not the amount that they need, but they don't give up, and they keep it up. I wanted to mention the fact that I walked the Sterling Park over here. I walked Dodge Park, and actually I walk it every morning. This morning, when I walked it, there was a gentleman there fishing. And I'm an avid angler, and that's why I think what she does is so good, because it does protect our Great Lakes, and primarily for me, Lake St. Clair. But I said to him, what would you be catching in the Clinton River? He says, you know, I've been fishing this river for 10 years. I've never seen it this clean. And he starts showing me pictures of king salmon, he had steelhead. Now, these fish are this big, if you can imagine that, in the Clinton River over by Dodge Park. And he attributes all of that to water quality, and I attribute all of that to Commissioner Miller and her staff. So it's nice to see that you're doing the work that you're supposed to be doing in a yeoman's way. And more important than that, I see a very tight budget. You're on the tail end of our budget here. I think you know that. of our budget reviews, and it's probably one of the tightest budgets we have, as you just said, so.
Well, you worked with Baker over in Sterling
Oh,
Heights.
he's
You
a
know how
tight
tight
guy.
he
He
is?
gets- yeah,
Well,
he
he's
gets,
tighter than
he-
me, and I'm a Scot.
He
okay?
gets a dime out of a nickel, no question about it. He's the best. He was always my hero then, and he is now, but I just want to commend you. You do a great job, and we appreciate that, so thank you very much. That's all I have, Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Kleinfeld.
Thank you, Chair. First, Mac's big fight with the state is at least let's do matching. You know, cities and counties match money that the state gives from ARP funds, which will enable us to do larger projects. They're getting a lot of money, and it is really up in the air how that money is going to be spent. There is a lot of lobbying, you know. We need that money. So hopefully they'll at least do that. They'll at least set up a situation where we can do the matching. Drain board is this next Monday, by the way. And I was thinking there's got to be commissioners wondering why they're never at a drain board meeting. And I think it's because most of the drains in other areas are smaller drains or open drains. In Warren, I'm not sure, but when they were doing the work on 10 Mile, that's Warren doing that work, and that is a huge pipe, which tells me our drains in Warren are not necessarily big, huge pipes, are they? Do you know?
Well, yeah, I think the work that's happening in Warren does not come under the Drain Commission, right?
That's
Yeah.
right.
So, but there are certainly drains in Warren, and we've had when Marv Sauger was here, we came to the drain board meetings, but we're not currently working on one of them.
Okay.
But I'm sure you will be in the lineup at some point, whether it's, a number of the different drains that are in Warren that will have drain boards on. So, but it just depends what's up in the hit parade, quite frankly, of whether or not we need to have a drain board for invoices and various kinds of things.
Yeah, and mine is
But-
just
but
by
you-
way of Chappaqton happens to be in mine, so I'm going to always be there every month.
And that is happening every month because it's a big drainage district with a lot of activity and a lot of invoices that have to be approved by the drain board, and you see all these different projects that we're having. So that is a busy drain board, as is the mid is every month.
And Candace will tell you that I have grilled her on occasion.
Pretty much every month.
So my question, and
surprise.
it's a very simple one, is with regard to Oakland County. Is it Oakland County's drains, or is it a combination of, do the cities and townships have drains that dump on us that don't go through the county drain, or do they all go through county drains to dump on us?
Well, just as we have Chappaqton, that is for East Point and St. Clair Shores, Oakland County has a number of different things, but the one that we're concerned with is called the George W. Kuhn, which is in Madison Heights, and it discharges. It's also been known as 12 towns. Okay, so there's 12 communities, municipalities that go into that, and that particular retention basin then discharges in a heavy rain event into the Red Run Drain. They are right on the border of at DeQuinder of Madison Heights and Warren, right there. If you drive by there after a heavy rain event, you will see all this discharge running down the Red Run Drain that runs into the Clinton River and then into Lake St. Clair. And
So it is a county one.
it is a county drain. It is their drain, and they discharge there. That facility has been designed to handle approximately a 1-inch drain, 1-inch rain. And, nowadays, every rain we get is 1 inch or more. And so they discharge all the time. This last summer, not only, of course, they're permitted, just as we are. So they treat it. Most of the time, not always. They have been in violation of their permit dozens of times every year. I mean, there was one time I sort of got into it with my counterpart over there who wanted to tell me there was no problem. I went down into the Red Run Drain there. I'm looking at these trees going, what is on these trees? It looked like Christmas. It was wipes, sewer wipes, just hanging from all those trees when they discharged all that, okay? So that is in violation of their permit. This last year, they discharged 1 million gallons on the June 29th event, 1 million gallons of raw sewage not treated, raw sewage in the Red Run drain right before a busy holiday weekend, when people are kayaking out there, no notification.
So, yeah,
So
I
I'm
just-
telling you, when you go and talk to some of your counterparts in Oakland County, this is what's happening. I would just say, if we were discharging on Oakland County, think you'd hear about it?
Yeah, that's why I asked the question, is I wanted to know who we would speak to. Is it definitely county or is it townships? So I appreciate the information. Thank you, Chair.
Commissioner Van Sickle.
Thank you, Chair. Good afternoon, Candace.
Good afternoon.
Sitting on the mid-drain board, I'm there every month, and you run a great meeting. All the facts are there to be reviewed, and everything's above board. And we finally saw Commissioner Romano last month.
He doesn't even
So-
bring donuts, nothing, he just shows up.
Yeah, I was surprised when he showed up. Anyway, I want to commend you on the job you're doing. The one thing I don't understand about your office is how on earth you decide which of the many, many, many projects to do next. Because you have too many projects that need to be done, and it's really a crime that it was let go that long, that it's in as bad a shape as it is. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks. Well, you just have to prioritize, right? Like anything else. You got to figure, like I said, we do the inspections. We try to grade them, and then we prioritize them, put together a capital improvements project, and just start working down the list. It's like the drains. I told you we have 475 drains. Most of these drains, almost all of them, quite frankly, were not touched for hardly ever. And really, all this drain work that we've been doing, Dan Acchiavetti's group has been out there doing at these, whether it's, Bruce Township or Washington or Macomb Township or Harrison or, wherever. After these heavy rain events, honestly, in this last year or so, our county has really discharged the stormwater pretty efficiently, pretty quickly. You didn't hear about a lot of flooding. Obviously, had some flooding, right? We had enormous amounts of rain. But those drains were working. And, now we clean out grates. As Harold knows, we had a meeting about the Marsack gravel pit over there in Roseville. And all those grates that go under I-94 and everything hadn't been cleaned out, and it was all backed up. All those condos were all flooding and everything. Now we're out there. We actually, when we see the rain coming, a heavy rain, not every time, but a heavy rain, we go out there proactively and clean those grates out. So that's what we're doing.
Good deal, thank you.
Commissioner Brown.
Thank you, Commissioner Miller, for coming today. Great report. The county's long been, and you've long been an advocate of clean water going back as long as I've known you. And Blue Ribbon Commission on Lake St. Clair 1 and 2, and all the groundwork that was laid way back when is being implemented by somebody that actually cares in that department for the change, and we're glad to have you there. Tell me about the drain cleanouts that you do. How's that program? Can that program be improved at all? We give you 50%, we give you some money, and it goes 50-50. How's that program working out? Is there any improvements to that program that structurally that'd be working? We've been doing it a long time, but is there any improvements that maybe need to be made to that in terms of the process?
Well, just like one of the positions that we're asking for is full-time, because we can never find anyone. You can't hire anybody for hardly anything anymore right now. Everybody is short on labor, but having a part-time position has just been something we haven't been able to fill. So we're looking for a full-time position there in this budget. Then Dan will be able to run 2 crews, is our thought, 2 different drain crews. So we could really start, doubling up, ratcheting up the amount of drains that we can get. But what will happen, he'll go out and talk to each one of the township supervisors and the city, managers or whoever, and we are asking them, right? Like Washington Township or whatever, they know where the drains are that need to be cleaned out as well as we do, probably, because if you're a local resident, you're probably calling your township supervisor before you'd call me saying, look, this is all flooding or I have this issue. So we proactively go out there. We ask them what they're looking at. We try to cost out what our work will be next year. Of course, it keeps changing. We're always in a state of flux, but we try to have sort of a rough idea of where we're going to be able to go. and then cost it out, and then we'll approach, because usually they'll have to go to their township board or city council or whatever and say, Clinton Township, we had a big project over there. Mary Bednar had to go ask for 15 grand or whatever, and the board gave it to us. So, we have to, that's essentially what we are doing with this. It's really not, it's not science, it's sort of, you can just throw a dart almost anywhere in the county and go over there and start cleaning a drain, I think. But that's what we're trying.
That is true. I mean, representing the areas I have for a long time, especially the north end with a lot of agriculture, that they're concerned drainage is key to their
Yes.
operation, and their drainage and their large swaths of property affect residential properties around. So when those get backed up, it creates a noise, and I hear about it, and also it goes to your office. So the retention of that has been really appreciated. Steve, regarding the ARP funds, we've got about 107, Steve's question for Steve Schmiegel, because it relates to the money that we're going to spend. Some of that money is going to be allocated to Public Works, because applying that money to these drainage districts, that's 600,000 people affected by a project that we're going to spend $30 million on, is basically like a tax cut in advance, because we're lowering the cost to the residents who are also going to have to pay for that service had it not been for that money going into them. But that money is sitting where now until we get, because we're waiting for costs for the jail, we're waiting for costs for maybe the other health department building we're considering. Where are we at in terms of timing for when we're going to get the cost numbers for them so we can look at that money and how we're going to divvy up that ARP money?
We are currently in consulting agreements for both the health department and the sheriff. The central intake, I would suspect that's going to be several months before we have those back.
Okay.
No, I don't have an exact time on it, but I would expect several months.
But that's going to be a separate budgeted item brought forward, it'll be actually a budget amendment brought forward to us when we figure out, when you're ready to decide how much money
We'll
we're going
bring
to allocate to each
contracts and
project.
agreements back to you for approval at that point in time.
That's right. And where's that money? Just sitting in the general fund?
Just sitting in the bank.
Sitting in the
Not
bank.
in the
And we're
general
getting-
fund. We'll have a separate fund for it, but it's in the bank.
It's a separate fund. And
Yeah, but it's in the bank.
we're earning interest on 84 million.
Right.
The first half of it. 'Cause
First
we're
half
going to
of
get
it.
another
We'll
half
get
at the end of the year.
other half a year from now.
Theoretically.
Next August.
Yes. Okay. All right. I wanted to just get the board and information on where that's at, because that's a key part of what we're talking about here today. So, and regarding Oakland County, we're lucky in this county. Our whole county, our state delegation, it works pretty well together. I mean, Senator Wono, Donna Warren, McDonald in the center of the county, and now we have Senator Wozniak replacing our North End senator now. So all three senators are definitely in tune to this and have been supportive. I know that they've been working with your office, and our state reps probably have as well. And you can be sure this board will be continuing to push the effort as we can, because we all have contacts in our own way
Right.
to push the envelope. The state has a lot of ARP money. They got more money than they know what to do with it, I think, quite frankly. And they had to spend it on the Great Lakes and water quality down here in our area. So we'll make sure to help you get the message out. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. So we're going to be on to the second round here in a moment. I just have some questions for you, Commissioner. Just want to commend you on everything that you've been doing. Just for clarity too, because Commissioner Brown stole my thunder. Because I wanted to talk about these drain improvements, the 50-50 split, because it just seems like the amount that we have there, I think that we could find some more money, that we could put something in, with a 50-50 split, and when we have those options for our municipalities, I mean, we're only talking about $12,500 that we have in our budget. I'm sure we can find a little bit more, and based on, and quite honestly, when you bring a budget like this to us, you make our jobs a lot easier. I mean, you've already heard the comments. I'm not going to reiterate everything, but I think with your team and what Dan can do, if we can find that full-time employee and we can
use
get
more
more
money, Dan?
drains cleaned out.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I
We can
think
use a little bit more. Want to
always-
give us a little bit more?
and I'm sure we could probably find you some, because I mean, I think if you're going to get a full-time employee there, and we can clean out more drains, I mean, that hits, hits the bullet, the target, I should say, relative to, what you're trying to do with those drains. So just
Maybe
some
I
clarity
could
here
ask Dan
too.
just to comment about if he can use any more cash or what he would do with it.
Yeah, one of the challenge is getting the local municipalities to go through their process to approve the projects. And a lot of times they come up quick and they need to be done next week. And that process takes some time, and it causes issues for timing the project. So a little bit more leeway there would be helpful.
So, because I'm looking at the board here, I mean, I'm guessing, is that about 100 drains based on your board?
How many did we do this year?
102.
Every day, and not all of those are totally 50-50 programs. So every day we're out troubleshooting problems, ones that are on our hot list. If we know an inch of water's coming, we know this grate's got to be cleaned, this area's got to be cleaned, to be proactive. And we're also dealing with blockages in virtually every corner of the county. And
that's the other thing I see too, because we've had so much rain this summer. I don't know if anyone's noticed this, but a lot of your catch basins are full of trash, piling up with trash. So, seeing that new process that you've implemented, I think it's fabulous. We want to try and eliminate tonight. I mean, get it to that point, obviously. So maybe that's something that, we can talk about and maybe figure out some programs, community outreach, things like that people would love to participate in.
If I could just follow up on that, that is an area that we could, I don't have actually a program for it, but it's something that we want to do, is more community outreach, particularly in the neighborhoods about the catch basins. Because, I'm a walker. I know I don't look like it, but in the neighborhood I walk in, I'm like, this about makes me nuts. I'm cleaning the storm drains, because it's just full of, it's one thing if it's leaves, but it's, plastic bottles and all. You just know where it's all going, right? So that's the thing. And we're also going to try to do best practices, kind of an outreach into the communities about what people can do on their individual home sites, right, at your lot for stormwater management, whether it's rain barrels, whether it's changing your downspouts more away from your house, all these kinds of things. So,
because that goes directly to the lake.
It does, yeah.
And I don't think people realize that.
We don't really have a staff that does that. We're all sort of doing it, But anyway.
The other thing, too, the discharge reports that you've been providing us, thank you for doing that. I think it's, first of all, it's shocking. Second of all, it's interesting to see what we're doing and how we're tracking it. I'm not going to go in detail about that, but I think that information that you continue to provide us just keeps our eye on the ball. So thank you for doing that and continuing that. And then in regards to what Commissioner Brown was talking about relative, and also Commissioner Song, relative to the ARC money that you're talking about, so we're getting approximately, $105 million, and that's going to be going into our capital improvement plan, so everyone's aware of that. It's slotted in two different spots, one being the central intake and one being the, where's the other big number there? Health Department, thank you. So I think that's what you're talking about when you like to use some of those funds, and relative to what Commissioner Brown was saying, that's a direct tax decrease to the ratepayers, because ultimately the work needs to be done. We know that. So who's going to pay for it? Is it the ratepayer, or are we going to be taking money out of those funds to help you with those projects?
Right.
So those are all my comments. So I've got Commissioner Farrington on the second round.
Thank you, Chair. I'll make it real quick. I took your advice, Commissioner, and I got on the hotline with my state representative. The supplementals are being worked on now and should be done in December. Thank you, Chair.
Well, just hope that some of our stuff can find a home there, right?
Commissioner Van Sickle.
Thank you. Commissioner Miller, on this drain cleanout, does that take any specialized equipment?
Yeah, some of it is manual, but we have a list of several contractors that we sort of work with that we hire, that Dan hires.
Well, where I was going to is if you wanted to run a second crew, if it took specialized equipment, do you have it, or do you need to add it?
I don't know that we would buy it. I think we would probably just contract it out, right?
Okay.
Rather than buying the equipment and training operators and all of that. We have several contractors that we work with that we get a very long deal on, we think. I mean, they're good, but they know they're going to get a lot of work out of us too, because we're clean and drain, so it's mutually advantageous. But if we had more money, we could clean out more drains.
Great, thank you.
Commissioner Song.
Thank you, Chair. Just another quick question regarding the Oakland County Retention Basin. You had mentioned that they had violated their permit once or numerous times. Like, what are the consequences and what happens? Is that a state permit that they're violating?
Yes. All the retention basins and the wastewater treatment plants are under a permitting process through EGLE at the state. Used to be the Department of the Environment. Now it's called EGLE. And I mean, we have our permit at Chapaton through them. And so does the George W. Kuhn facility.
Do they have to pay a fee when they violate that permit?
I mean, nothing. They have a permit to pollute. That's a good way to put it.
Got it.
Honestly, I mean, I personally emailed EGLE after this sanitary sewage discharge in the middle of the summer and I said, don't you even have any kind of notification protocol, for goodness sake? People are kayaking out in this stuff. I got to wait 5 days and then find it on your website somehow? Can you tell us anything? Oh, well, we're going to look into it. We're going to be, that was the answer. I'm just telling you. Makes me crazy.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Okay. Seeing no other commissioners that'd like to speak, thank you, Commissioner Miller and your team.
Great. Thank you all.
Bryan.
Really appreciate your time, your consideration. Thanks.
So we have a motion on the floor to receive and file. Please vote.
Motion passes 10-0.
Okay. Next budget review is planning and economic development. I need a motion to receive and file.
So moved by Nard.
Support Van Sickle.
Moved by Nard, supported by Commissioner Van Sickle. And we have Vicki here. I think we're going to start off with planning, sounds like.
You've got it. Good afternoon, Commissioners. Vicki Rowinski, the Director for Macomb County Planning and Economic Development. I believe you have me down as Vicki Rad. We got to forget that, that the last name did change, so I'm also still getting used to that. From a economic development perspective, I know we've got some new commissioners on the board. I can give you a quick overview on what our mission is. When we look at Macomb County, it is really looking at the economic vitality, looking to grow, retain, and attract economic investment that come to Macomb County. What that ends up doing is creates jobs within our communities, creating the economic prosperity model. Ultimately, work really closely with our educational partners because we are looking at those high-wage, high-paying, cost of living jobs within our communities. And we also have to be able to balance this with the quality of life as well as preservation. Now, our department is broken into 4 specific work groups, which I'll talk a little bit about specifically, and then we'll dive into the budget. One of our work groups, Jeff Schrader, you guys have met him in previous meetings. He helps oversee both our traditional community planning efforts, looking at land use throughout Macomb County, as well as our GIS. And that technology truly does help support a lot of our decision-making models, not just at Macomb County, but at the local municipality level. The other work group is Parks and Natural Resources, looking at the natural assets that we've got both on our waterways as well as our trails. Works really closely with Commissioner Miller and her team with Public Works. And then that fourth work group, the third work group looks at economic development, the business vitality, the types of businesses that we attract through our targeted industries, as well as that notion of job creation. And then the fourth component is looking at how do we market and communicate everything that's happening within Macomb County. As you guys know, the new census numbers came out. Macomb County is positive as far as population growth. When we look at economic vitality of a county or community, having those numbers in that positive really does factor well for us. At the end of the day, we do have also some problems that we got to make sure that, or challenges I should say, that we want to make sure that we pay attention to. And so within our department, we've got specific goals, metrics with investments. Pre-COVID, we were actually in an all-star stellar year. In fact, we had close to $2 billion worth of investment coming into Macomb County, a creation of over 4,600 jobs. That is a pretty nice earmark. I don't know if we're going to see those days moving forward. Pre-COVID, if you guys remember, we saw a lot of activity happening in our automotive sector. As we stand here today, as Candace Miller mentioned, we're the third largest as far as population, but it should also be noted we're the ninth smallest as far as land mass. And where that kind of creates some challenges in economic development, as well as in our planning, is how do we utilize the land that we've got within Macomb County, knowing that we've got unique assets to the south, we've got unique assets to the north, and within a 30-minute drive window, you can go from city to country, and that really makes us unique to Macomb County. But there are some issues with infrastructure. Just this week alone, our team met with 2 major communities, discussing roads, discussing the drains. Those do hinder projects in Macomb County. Right now, we're sitting at about a 2.1% vacancy rate as far as industrial. That is pretty low. About 2 months ago, we were at 1.8%. And so what that tells us is that we don't have enough industrial property available, ready to go. We do get a lot of prospects coming into inquiring about where to locate their business. We were challenged. We're challenged in looking at what already exists in Macomb County. We know we've got some green space as well as some brownfield, and our department definitely takes on those challenges to get really creative around it. One of our goals is looking at the smart growth model, looking at existing infrastructure, communities that have been around since the 40s and 50s that have been built out. But, how do we tackle some of those issues with these communities that have existing infrastructure and really focus on redevelopment and regrowth in these communities? So that building that may not be attractive to a high-tech company, how do we go in and really support some perhaps revisioning of what those communities can look like? And then, as mentioned, with the land use, we have limitations. When we look at anything north of 26 Mile with water and sewer, electricity, utilities. And so we've got to be really smart and creative with what we've got. In order to do that, we've got to be able to, invest in our resources. And if I can switch gears and talk a little bit about the budget, what's presented to you, there is a slight increase, and I'll talk about the request for the one additional position. In our department, we've got a really strong technology that we use, GIS. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that. It's Geospatial Information Systems. And what that allows us to do is look at land use within Macomb County. Our communities leverage this technology. It's actually being leveraged throughout many departments in Macomb County. And some of the maps that you saw available digitally, for example, the COVID heat wave map, that came from our department. When we look at our strategic properties, being able to look at the aerial visual of that property, that is the use of that technology. Anytime we see major growth in communities as far as subdivisions, parcels that are identified for residential use, those get incorporated into our GIS, and our local communities utilize that. So the ask for this year for that full-time position is a GIS specialist. I will tell you, we've been, for the previous years, been loaning out one of our senior GIS specialists to E911, Sheriff and Dispatch. His allocation of time, we realize that he's got to be dedicated because that service is truly important. But we also have a backlog of data that we've got to support within our GIS working group. So that is the 1+ position that you'll see on the budget. And then if we look at the expenditures, there is some additional funding requests for programming dollars. When we look at supplies and services, you'll see a slight uptick there. When we talk about Macomb County and this digital age, what we learned with COVID, especially with the pandemic, is that we've got to be able to market ourselves in some non-traditional ways, really looking at the digital, our website, our footprint. Site selectors across the nation, both international as well as national, are visiting economic developer websites. And we've got to make sure that our website is updated, it looks good. We've got to sell Macomb community from afar, where traditionally those meetings were happening across a boardroom. Now we've got to be able to do that in the digital space. We also, saw an uptick in online services. These are some of the tools that we use, whether it is Salesforce, which is our database management system, as well as some of the other online tools we use to look at land use as well as land availability in Macomb County. And with that, I'm definitely open for any additional questions. I'm very proud of the team for what we've been able to do over not just this past year. Last year was the anomaly. Sometimes I like to almost cross out, 2020. But we learned a lot of lessons, and it really did force us into that digital age as a county, and we'll continue to grow.
Thank you, Vicki. First is Commissioner Haw.
Thank you, Chair. Hi, Vicki. You guys do a phenomenal job as well. I read recently that Macomb County is one of the largest growing areas in the entire state, if not the Midwest. So a lot of that's got to be attributed to what your group's doing. You mentioned in your budget under contract services that it was a slight tick up. What type of services are you contracting for?
Sure. And this line item, contractual services, allows us to bring on various contracts. This year, I will let you know for aerial photography, getting back to our GIS and that system, every 2 years, every other year, we do have aerial photography done for Macomb County. That alone is right around $45,000. So that therefore you'll see it in this budget year. You won't see it in next year's. But I've got our team, when we're pulling together the budget, being able to come up with some creative ways for us to stretch our dollars. If you look at our budget, it is primarily based on salaries. The resources of the talent that we've got on staff. Some of the areas that we're looking at, small business programming. The pandemic brought about close to 5,000 new businesses reaching out to Macomb County that we had not seen last year. So we do have some programming to help elevate and promote those small businesses. We've got some grant match programming with Protect and Grow, which is a big initiative at the state of Michigan to grow our defense assets as well as protect those. The Robotics Collaboration Center, which falls under our Fueling the Talent pipeline, looking at STEM initiatives to really engage our youth in careers in robotics and automation, as we see definitely a demand growing that particular sector. Solid waste, this is also a contractual line item that each year we anticipate or prepare for the need for that solid waste committee to come back to fruition, and so we do set aside money in our budget for when we get that call coming down from the state. And then as well as, the community planning projects as well as parks and natural resources. A lot of the grants that we do pursue require some form of match. We're able to help supplement that match through these contractual service dollars.
Thank you. And last question, there's a line item called reimbursements, 2020 nothing, 2021 nothing, 2022 $98,500. What type of reimbursements are you getting?
Sure. Actually, if you don't mind, I'm going to have Steve Schmiegel maybe speak to that.
Well, it goes 00985. That's a pretty good jump.
So, as Vicki indicated, she's been loaning out one of these GIS positions primarily to the Sheriff Department. That money's coming from that 911 dispatch fund.
Oh, it is?
Yes.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you, Vicki. That's all I have, Chair.
Commissioner Kleinfeld.
Thank you, Chair, and I apologize, I'm going to make a quick exit. I've got something that I have to be at, and I'm holding all the tickets for a whole bunch of other people, so I'll be in trouble if I don't get back there in time to give those out. My question was along the lines on the contract services. I know over the years, supplies and services for the promotion have gone up dramatically, and we've supported that. And the contract services, obviously 2020 was an anomaly, but just from 19 to 22, it's really like a 33% increase. And like when we approved these, like a few years ago, the budget would say the new number and then that goes out. But then when we get a new budget, like this one has 400,000, 400,000, 400,000, but it seems like, next year, it'll say 450,000, 450,000, 450,000, and it just seems to go up every year, 50,000, 50,000, and 50,000. Is there a point where it really does hit a plateau and we actually can count on that 400 to stay 400 for a while? For like a year or something?
Absolutely. When we look at, like as mentioned, with the aerial photography, we know that one was not included in last year's budget. So that one you do see come and go. This year's, and I did forget to make mention of this, is the countywide website renewal. Our department, our marketing communications team is working on a lot of the content. And so this year we are looking at hiring on contractually to help us work with every other department within Macomb County to make sure that website looks right and that we do it right this time around, knowing what's being invested in that. Those are one-time or one-year costs. We don't anticipate seeing that next year.
Okay, so following that next year, that line item might actually drop down?
Correct. And in fact, for 2020, it did go down, and now we're seeing the increase up. Great.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Yep.
Commissioner Farrington.
Thank you, Chair. Hi, Vicki. I guess I'm just going to reiterate what they said. I have concerns about contract services, not just 5 times the rate of inflation this year, but 6 times the rate of inflation since 2019. We can't keep doing that. So in my mind, reprioritization has to happen going forward, because year after year, these huge increases can't keep happening. Question on personnel. So you're adding a person, understood, but yet it's going up $210,000.
So there is also a reclassification when we look at the retention of individuals. So I believe that's what's rolled into that number. It is a communication specialist that would be reclassified to senior.
So there's an additional position, a reclassification up for another person, then the normal 2, 3, 4% raises or whatever.
Correct.
All right, thank you.
Commissioner Romano.
Thank you, Chair. Hi, Vicki.
Hello.
Vicki, tell me some more about this new employee that you want to get to, I think you said what did you call him, a GIS employee? So that, I'm trying to understand this, so that he could realize the availability of more property that may be available for industrial or so forth use in the county. Am I close to what you were thinking?
Yeah, so it's across the board. So anytime you've got a land parcel identified in Macomb County, whether it is residential, whether it's industrial, whether it's commercial, that gets incorporated into the GIS system. There are also some major upgrades coming to GIS via our Parcel Explorer, and there is no one to actually do that work. And so somebody needs to be assigned to be able to backfill some of the work that has not been completed due to us doing a cost share with the sheriff's office on the one position.
So he's going to be, whoever you hire or she, is going to be looking for the availability of these parcels that come in, or is he going to be looking for parcels like this to come in? Which
Sure.
one is I?
It's both. And in fact, Jeff, who is, this is his baby. The GIS system is, a homegrown system that we've used here in Macomb County. He has grown that out. We've underinvested in our GIS system to begin with when we compare ourselves to other communities. It is a tool that is being heavily leveraged, whether it be our E911, whether it be all 27 different communities that utilize or repurpose that system, as well as our departments, including the health department, our public works office, Department of Roads. The tool, the technology behind GIS is definitely growing in leaps and bounds. We have not met the needs with our resources to keep up with it. Okay. And if I could invite Jeff up here, because he can really speak to some of the projects that are not currently taking place just because we've had this vacancy.
Not necessary, I got it. Thank you.
Okay.
I got it. Thank you, Chair.
Commissioner Matuzak.
Hello. I just want to go back to something you sort of said in passing. Mm-hmm. Your department is sort of redoing the county's website, the entire county's website, or just your department?
So marketing and communications helps oversee countywide communications. So we work really closely. We're part of the main.
Would you speak,
Oh.
I need to speak in that microphone so we can all hear you.
Sure. Okay. Our marketing and communications team is part of the core team that is working on the website redo. So even though the procurement process went through contractually through information technology, IT, JACO's work group, our team is the co-chair on that, making sure that whatever that site looks like, they'll build the framework, but we've got to figure out what does it look like to the outside residents and those who want to know more about Macomb County, that they've got that vision that we're trying to pass through.
Thank you. Mr. Chair, the other Mr. Chair over there, the big Mr. Chair. When JACO came before us about redesigning the website, we in fact tossed it back to them and did not approve an expenditure of that money. Now I hear that the county is redoing their website. I would sort of like to know, was there a contract let to do this? That did not come to us?
If I can,
Please.
sorry, Chair and Board Chair. We did, the first time we didn't approve the contract because it wasn't bid out, but the second time he came to us with several bidders and we did approve one of them. I remember because they had experience in building other government websites.
All right, thank you. I just did not remember doing that. Thank you, Mr. Chair. The other Mr. Chair.
Chair Brown.
Thank you. Yeah, the website's in need of great overdue, so I'm glad to see your department's also involved with it as a team approach to, and actually our office has been surveyed by the team through somebody from your team to ask us what needs for this, our concerns with the website are, and so we're glad to hear that because that's a topic of interest for everybody. But go back to the GIS system. When was that system, when did we bring that system on? What year was that? That was new technology at the time.
New technology back in about 1993. That's
That's
really
right.
when we
We
brought
talked
that
about
up.
levels of information, and the first one we were going to put was parcel numbers. Every parcel number in the county would have a parcel number. We could just find the parcel. That was one layer. How many layers do we have now?
At most, about 273 layers of information that we maintain. And that's everything from political districts down to land use to information that we're hosting for other departments and agencies. Like Candace has all her information, all her water and sewer stuff. It's all in her system, but she hosts it all in the county GIS.
Now, we also receive some money because that's information valuable to not only other municipalities, but to other private companies. And we sell some of that, right? Or we contract out for some of that, correct?
We do receive some revenues from our local units of government on an annual basis. Generally, many of them will reach out to us looking for hard copy maps where they're looking for the parcels within their communities that have changed over time. So those are then, they integrate those into their business processes within their assessing departments and use that data to do the tax collection functions.
The reason I bring it out is that investment serves all of our constituencies, all of our districts around the county, which leads me to my next question. Thank you, Jeff. Vicki, why don't you speak a little bit about how your department interacts with our local communities? Because at least you provide support to many communities that I'm aware of and support other initiatives in our own local districts that aren't necessarily county governments, but we're working to partner with Warren perhaps, or Sterling Heights, or Clinton Township, or Washington Township, wherever it happens to be. Could you speak a little bit about your department's involvement in that aspect of what you do? Because
Sure.
maybe because there's so many new commissioners, they may not fully appreciate the support our county planning department provides to our local municipalities.
Absolutely. And so when we look at the makeup of Macomb County, we're made up of 27 different cities, municipalities, villages. Some of these communities are, they have enough money within their budget where they're able to support on-site planners, a full-time staff, as well as economic developers. Other communities do not have that support on staff, and they really lean on us to help them succeed in a bigger dog-eat-dog world. In Macomb County, we do provide planning services for cost to the city of Utica. We just signed a contractual agreement with the city of Mount Clemens to help with both planning and economic development initiatives, as well as the city of New Haven. And then we've been having some dialogue with some of the other communities that, may not want the full on menu of services, but, a la carte, really rely on our team to help them succeed and grow.
So the county supports the whole county, and we're involved in a lot of things to the department.
Sure.
And sometimes as a request, if you have a community that's got a particular project you need some help with, they're available to help call and say, what about this? And
Right.
maybe they could help assist with some of that.
We end up becoming more the liaison between the local unit and the state of Michigan whenever it involves a major project where there are incentives involved. And so that local community may provide a tax abatement up to 12 years depending on the duration of the project. We assist with the paperwork, making sure that, when that does go into to the state of Michigan, does get approval from the MSF board that, we've dotted the I's, crossed the T's. We don't want to lose these projects because of an administration or clerical issue, and so we end up becoming that liaison. And if there are any issues that pop up, whether they're at the local or the state, we end up becoming that conduit to be the problem solver.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Vicki.
You got it.
Commissioner Song.
Thank you, Chair. Hi, Vicki. Several questions that I have. Just going back to the website, I know it's getting redesigned. The current website, when you're viewing it on a mobile device, there's the main menu and then there's like a sub-menu within each department. And so it makes it really hard to navigate on a small device. So I just hope that, with the redesign and working with the new company, that all of you are keeping in mind, users are accessing our website from different devices, whether it's tablets or phones. And so I just want to make sure that it is very mobile friendly, because maybe 70% of the traffic might be coming from mobile devices. So just something to keep in mind as you guys are doing the redesign. And then my next question is regarding you mentioned programming dollars. Does that fall under contract services or internal services? And what would fall under internal services?
So it would be under contractual services. Internal services is more of the internal, I call it more the overhead administration, that we see as a county. So that can include finance, HR, all those other support services that are provided to our department. But, there's a line item that I think all of us get on our budget that showcases that internal services dollar amount.
Okay. And then my last question is regarding, small business programming and supporting small businesses. There are a lot of empty commercial spaces across Macomb County. You talked a little bit about supporting industrial economic growth in businesses and probably even like large-scale manufacturers. But what about small businesses and, all of these empty office spaces, these commercial spaces that are not really big in order to be utilized for industrial, but have you guys thought about that given, the pandemic and so many people working from home too? Like, is this something that we're going to continue seeing as a trend, or what can your department do to help get businesses back in these commercial spaces?
Sure, and that's a great question, and it definitely is incorporated within our strategy. Pre-COVID, our department primarily worked with some of the large industrial users, the major employers. We would work on commercial projects, for example, the Cabela's project at 23. When we look at, the economic impact of bringing in, a showcase store such as that. What COVID brought to us was all the smaller mom and pop type retailers. When I talk about 5,000 new companies in our database, they are your micro enterprise, your 1 to 5 that really do need a lot more hand holding. They may not have the marketing arm to really promote and market what it is they're selling, their products and services. We work closely with other partners in this space. For example, the SBDC, the Small Business Development Center, helping them with their business plan, getting them financed ready for loans at a bank. There's definitely more we can be doing in this space to help those smaller businesses, especially those that are independently owned and operated. Those become our focus because they're so unique to our communities. They're not your big box stores and they aren't your franchise. These are your homegrown, community, really driven businesses that really truly mean a lot to us. And we'll continue to focus on that, even though traditionally it hasn't been that way.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Commissioner Van Sickle.
Thank you, Chair. Good afternoon, Vicki. You mentioned agreements with Utica and Mount Clemens. They're not in place yet?
No, they are in place.
They are in place. Do they fund those?
Yes.
And where does that funding show up in the budget? Is that part of the
Steve, would you be able
reimbursements?
to- I know it shows up on a different line
Part of
item.
that 98,000, I believe, is in the Utica and those agreements, plus the GIS funding for the other position.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because the way it was said before, I thought the GIS was doing the whole
Yeah, I
98.5.
apologize for not being as clear there.
Okay, thank you. About the website, I think I didn't have a spin on it as which you put on it about making it attractive to businesses outside of Macomb County, to attract them to pay attention to Macomb County. But it makes me a little nervous, somebody in your office having such control of the future website, because I am very interested in having our website be much more usable by our constituents. And I don't know that constituents coming at the website would really need the same kind of functionality that that outside companies looking to sample Macomb County or looking to possibly consider Macomb County would be. Who's the consumer advocate or the constituent advocate, I'll call it, in the website design?
Sure, and I'll kind of explain my perspective behind that. So we've got Macomb County, the master website for the county. We also have a subset to that, which is Macomb Business, which is just focused on business attraction, marketing, talent attraction. So two separate and distinct websites. Through this website redesign, we want to make one cohesive look and feel. The vendor that was brought on, Interpersonal Frequency, their specialty is actually working with municipal governments, making sure that they're targeting the voice of the constituents, the residents, and it could be a business or it could be, a homeowner that's trying to find something within our website and can't find it because we talk government. We don't talk to what the end user is looking for. And so they have a specialty in targeting that message so that it's truly focused on what does it feel like for the end user as they're searching our website, whether it is a government-related service or something that's provided through our department. It doesn't look and feel that way, but they get to exactly where they need to be based on their search.
Okay, good. I just want to make sure that's addressed.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Okay. Commissioner Farrington, your second round?
Yeah.
Could I just ask a question really quick before we go to second round? Vicki, can you just, maybe this is more of a question for Steve. So in regards to the reimbursements, the $98,500, so Steve, when I look at the 911 dispatch fund, 95.5 of that total is related to that, and the difference is related to planning's budget?
Yeah, I gotta verify that, but that should be the case. Now, what I was just talking about with Steve is, you'll notice in the out years, that's not the.
Yep.
Yeah. So, I'm on that.
Stole my thunder.
I'm on that.
See, us accountants think alike. And then, in regards to the GIS, the product itself, and maybe this is a question more for Jeff, but for the local municipalities, do they pay for their own licensing related to that product, or are they using our licensing and our employees to get the information that they need when they need it?
Now, Commissioner, the way we designed our back office system is we've licensed our products from ESRI, or ESRI, who is the product vendor. Individual departments and agencies who actually develop and create data within the county purchase licenses or have licenses afforded to them through our IT department. With the platform that we've invested in, though, that gives us a web interface that we can provide outward facing to the public, which does not have any licensing charges on it. So what we'll see is we'll see our local units either at their front counter are using our Parcel Explorer product and that. So it's a benefit, basically.
I use the
leveraging
product.
that, and
It's a
there's
very good product.
no cost to our locals. The only time that a local would incur cost is if there was special data that they'd asked us to potentially generate or create for them, then we would talk about what that cost would be. Or if one of their contracting engineering firms or consulting firms needs actually a hard copy or a digital copy of that aerial photography, stuff that they need to bring in-house to work on themselves, we may charge them for the transfer of that data.
Okay, that makes sense. Okay, thank you. Commissioner Farrington, second round.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, Vicki, how many years has Utica been contracting out the planning services from the county?
We just went through a renewal of that contract. I want to say it precedes me. I want to say maybe 14.
Yeah, that's what I thought. It was quite a
I think
while.
it's 2014.
Yeah.
At least
that's what I thought.
2012, 2014.
Yeah, I thought it's been quite a while. So I guess I'm going back to the same question I was asked earlier, but we have zeros under reimbursement all those years. If Utica's been paying the county for those services, why do we have zero on our budget under reimbursements?
I know, Steve, administratively, you're going to go back and figure that out.
Yeah, I got to look at that, Commissioner.
Okay. Okay. I knew it was related to this question, but I thought it was a little bit different, so I want to make sure, because, yeah, I remember years ago Utica was using it, so, okay, thank you.
You got it.
Okay, seeing no other speakers, thank you, Vicki.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff. We have a motion to receive and file. Please vote.
Motion passes 8-0.
Okay, next item is correspondence. Need a motion to receive and file with the budget review follow-up received through November 2nd, 2021.
I'll make the motion, Farrington.
Support Van Sickle.
Made by Farrington, supported by Van Sickle. So, Kyle, do you want to talk about this, just to kind of give everybody an update where we stand?
Yeah, I've put together a PDF with responses from a few of the departments. As you can see, it's not terribly extensive, but from my follow-up with the departments, I've realized that some departments are following up directly with commissioners. So if you, as a commissioner, receive an answer from a department, if you wouldn't mind sending that to staff, because we would like to be able to send that out to all of the commissioners, just to make sure everybody's on the same page, everybody has the same information, and ideally, we'll present this at the budget for receive and file so everybody can see it. And if you do have follow-up questions regarding any of these, feel free to let me know. I'm more than happy to track that information down. I know, like on the Vic Wertz camera one, we've been going back and forth. That's what I'm here for. Happy to do my job. Thank you.
Thank you, Kyle. He's been doing a great job for us, keeping it transparent with all of us. So just to kind of follow up also in regards to where we stand as far as amendments go, if you have an amendment, we ask that you deal with Kyle directly. He will help you with the amendment. We already have amendments that are going to be brought forward. They're already on the list, so we have a list going. Please don't wait till the last day. We really want to have some conversations, and Kyle has been, actually I saw the spreadsheet, keeping track of it very, very detailed for us, as well as this communication relative to any questions and answers. So thank you, Kyle, for all that transparency for us. Commissioner Song.
Thank you, Chair. Speaking of amendments, when we do present the amended budget, will that be noted as to which commissioner made that amendment, or does it come from the board as a whole?
Yes, so the list, when we have the list of amendments that come before us, we'll have that list, and then basically that commissioner will make that motion with support. We'll have the discussion, and we'll go down the list.
Okay, thank you.
Seeing no other speakers, we have a motion to receive and file. Please vote.
Motion passes 8-0.
Okay, next item is commissioner comments. Are there any comments? Trying to get to that screen here. Commissioner Song.
Thank you, Chair. So Kyle, I did receive a correspondence from the prosecutor's office, which I emailed to you. I wasn't aware of that process, but I'll make sure I do that. I just have a question. Maybe this might be for staff. I noticed we have recycle bins throughout the office and the building. I'm just wondering where that recycling goes. I did have a conversation with a city council person who had mentioned that some of the villages and townships in Macomb County actually don't have a recycling program. They have a curbside one, but for those that live in like condos or apartments, there's no drop-off service. So I was just wondering, like, where does the recycling go? I know Warren has a really great recycling curbside program, but just wondering if we could get that answer.
We'll get it for you, Commissioner Song.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair.
Commissioner Farrington.
Thank you, Chair. I'm pretty excited. It's the first time I've said anything in comments section. Everyone keep in mind we need a quorum. We barely have it right now. So keep that in mind as you have schedules and as you leave to take care of other things. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner, for reminding us on that. Seeing no other speakers. Next item is public participation. So this is the opportunity for public participation who wish to speak for a maximum of 3 minutes on any issue. Anyone from the public like to speak? Going once, going twice. We'll close public participation. Need a motion to adjourn.
Support
Made
Van
by
Sickle.
Nard, supported by Van Sickle. Please vote. Thank you, Commissioners.